Welcome back, everybody, to another Retroactive Trio Podcast. Tonight's topic, vintage versus modern toy collecting. Is it worth it? Is it still a fun hobby? Is it worth getting into it if you've never even collected toys before? We are going to be exploring all different types of options tonight. But first, we've got to do the usual intro. I am, of course, your Patient Zero, Zombie JLT1.
I am Retro Ryan.
I'm Chris from Big Family Gaming.
And with us tonight is the always awesome...
That little podcast, or Vince. How you guys doing?
All right. So, any quick announcements? Any good pickups this week? Anybody got any bits of information to share with us that isn't the sad death of Ray Liotta this week?
COVID, at least I think.
Well, we're glad that you are kicking that COVID, my man. Glad you could be here with us tonight.
Thank you.
Ryan, you're usually the big toy guy. Any good scores this week?
Right.
So, I've got, this is random, a Chuck E. Cheese vintage coin bank, vinyl bank, from the 80s.
Huh.
I always love how those look. Like, I have kind of a growing collection of those, the vinyl banks from the 80s. Like, I have like a Figment bank, which is, the character at Epcot at Disney that they're known for. Like, I already have a Chuck E. Cheese one. This is a second one. This is like him in like his full-on suit with the top hat and the cane, the classic Chuck E. Cheese. I'm still, getting here and there like Hasbro wrestling figures. I got one from the Mattel's recent line. It's like a Sting figure where you'd like it, Zombie, because he's the Crow. It's the Crow version of Sting.
Oh,
not
nice.
not the like the crew cut haircut with the face paint. It's like the Crow version.
Oh, the classic Sting.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, always picking those up here and there too.
Yeah, the old. Oh, go ahead, Zombie.
I was just gonna say I've been meaning to try and find that version of Sting. I mean, I think for his career it was a cool change up, but I'm always gonna remember Sting as the blonde surfer guy with like the vibrant face paint. Like that's always gonna be Sting to me. Although the crow image was definitely a nice touch.
And it's got the spring action like the Hasbro ones used to, where you push down the top and it's kind of the spring jump, so you can kind of dive into somebody like you're like in the wrestling ring. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I'm working on getting my. I did it again. I'm sorry.
It's all right, man. No, the only thing I've picked up this week, or at least had shipped to me, was my the Spider-Man Marvel Legends retro line. I got the Rhino figure that just came out this week, at least through Big Bad.
Yeah, a buddy of mine who owns a toy store out here, he just got some of those in, so I'm hoping to stop by his store to see what set he's got. I know he's got Carnage, which I definitely want to pick that up. Got to get Venom, of course. That's like one of Spider-Man's best villains, in my opinion. But damn, yeah, I kind of wish I had known ahead of time that they were going to re-release those.
Yeah, they're really great because they're just a throwback to the original '90s cartoon Spider-Man line from Toy Biz. So I'm very excited to slowly start picking all these up.
Yeah, speaking of Toy Biz, I'm trying to boost my X-Men Toy Biz collection because I don't know where a lot of my loose stuff went. But I'm trying to get everything back on card. So I've got a good lead on some of the originals. I'm only focusing on the original line right now. So what is it? Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, Colossus, Nightcrawler. Who else was in that? I'm trying to think.
Oh, from the
like the first wave, the very first wave.
Dang it. I'd have to look it up. I used to know.
But then you got, let's see, Magneto, Juggernaut, Apocalypse, And was Sabretooth in that line too? Oh, Archangel. Archangel's in that one.
Yeah, it was Archangel. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to get all those. And then for those of you who chatted up with us on my Discord, you all know that I'm trying to get my Marvel Legends of my bro Warpath. Got to represent. So now that I know he was actually given 2 versions of a Marvel Legends, his original costume and his newer one, I'm on the hunt for those, and definitely want to have 2 on card, 2 loose, so I can put them on my work desk, get that motivation in.
While we're on Marvel Legends, the only thing I always hate is that Build-A-Figure shit. I mean, yeah, it's cool if you're getting every figure, but it just looks like you got loose limbs, and when you don't get the whole series. So it just, I don't care for that. I get that it just sells more that way because the people want to finish the Build-A-Figure sets, but just drop that and just release the figure separately. Even if you got to put it at a higher price.
The reason why they do that is because so they don't have they do that so they don't have to. Sorry, Ryan, I didn't mean to talk over you, man. They do that because they do that so they don't have to have peg warmers. They literally, that's the reason why they started doing this. So I don't think they're going to stop anytime soon because too many people have bitten that pill and they're enjoying it too much.
Right.
I gotta tell you, Vince, there still are peg warmers. They're all in Target. They're all in Walmart. All the ones people don't want to get. Usually, sadly, and there's nothing against. I love women, but usually a lot of the female characters don't get bought. That's just the way it is,
Right.
Unfortunately. But yeah, I see tons of them, like tons of extra. And even with the Build-A-Figures, they're still sitting. So I just wish they would just give you the figure separately, even if it costs a little more. Even if it's 10, 15 more for the Build-A-Figure.
Giving people that option would be great.
Yeah.
Completely. But I just don't know if it's something they want to do or not.
Right.
Yeah, I always felt like that was kind of like a moot point for a lot of people who were collecting just specific characters, And now you've got this like random body part that it's like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do with it? Do I display a leg?
Can we ever think of them doing that to us in the 80s or 90s? Did they ever do that? This is a newer thing, right?
With the original Marvel Legends figures, they did.
Mm-hmm.
From Toy Biz. You had Galactus. You had Sentinel.
Yep. Those were the first
Giant Man, Ant-Man.
So that started in the 2000s, though, right?
No, like mid to late 90s.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying Toy Biz X-Men? Because I don't remember that with Toy Biz X-Men.
It's when they started doing the Legend series, and then the Legend series ended, and then.
Okay. I didn't know Marvel Legends went back that far. I did not realize that.
Oh yeah. They only just started getting more professional as the hobby became more and more serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because I still have a few of the Spider-Man ones, so like the 2099 Scarlet Spider and Spider-Man in the black suit from that are still carded or in the plastic bubble.
Because even Funko Pops did that. When you look at some of the older release ones, they're even uglier than most of the newer ones today. But as soon as those started taking off, they went more and more for like a semi-professional design to them, and then they started grabbing every franchise they could possibly get. So, every one of those, I think every toy line, as far as I can tell, at least the successful ones, usually goes through some sort of like re-imaging, resculpt, redesign kind of thing. And I think that's part of what we should probably talk about with tonight's topic, because we've already got some people in chat throwing some lines at us. Like I believe Lit Gaming mentioned the RoboCop toys, and man, were those so cool to collect back in the day. I would give anything to have my original Ed 209 figure. But again, that's we're looking at it from the nostalgia goggles point of view, and what I'm hoping we all can talk about, our audience included, is For those of us who've been collecting figures here and there since the very beginning, or maybe just kind of intermittently picking up figures as we went along, like what has the collecting scene become for a lot of us retro and modern toy collectors? Is there a change in anything? Is there a shift in anything? Is it worse nowadays versus what it was in the beginning when we used to try to just go to the store and find stuff? You know, that's kind of what I want to talk about for sure.
Well, I can give you like what you call a sea change, you know, a big drastic shift, and that was Toys That Made Us on Netflix.
Yes.
Okay, Netflix is in so many households. You cannot discredit how much the availability of Netflix and a show that's a hit impacts things. And that, you know, they start out right from the get-go. The He-Man series is the first episode. I can remember like yesterday, and it was like, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago it came out, and I knew seeing that and how well they did it. And they interviewed all the sculptors, all the artists, all the industry insiders and people that worked for, you know, Mattel. And I just knew prices are going to double. And they did. And that was a big shift because you gotta, that's an immediate change to eBay pricing. When people see that's, and then people, you see it more and more, people slapping rare, vintage on the title of anything, right? Hard to find. You know, they hype it up even more as soon as they know it's in demand. And when that Toys That Made Us came out, that was a huge shift. So there was before that and after that, when the prices pretty much doubled over time.
So I would like to interject on that, as someone who's been collecting since day one. Toys R Us is what really changed the market.
Oh, that's a
when
very
Toys R
good
Us
point.
was around, Toys R Us was the exclusive toy store for everything. You know, like they had rights with all the toy companies, Hasbro, Mattel, and all them to be able to get exclusive rights. So when they got a business, there was a big shift on the exclusive going kind of like everywhere, like to Target, to Walmart, to these third party or secondary market sellers, you know, Big Bad Toy Store, Toy Wiz, and a couple other ones. But to counter your point, though, Ryan, there's other shows that did the same thing. You know, you got Toy Hunters that came on, you know, back in 2012.
I
Kind of did
remember
the
that
same
one.
thing. People were just looking in their attics, and it wasn't just toy. It was, you know, video games, movies, old records, and stuff. And then Comic Book Man. But there's a lot of people in the community that actually do a lot of documentaries about toy collecting. You know, you got the Game Chasers doing their, you know, their Toy Chasers episodes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's anytime people can get access to stuff to watch something and it kind of reminds them of things they used to have, they're going to jump towards it. You know, I never left it, so I didn't, you know, get rid of my stuff. I mean, sometimes I did, or I sold it because I needed to do something else, or I gave it away to my cousins because, you know, they wanted the toys I had, and I was like, I didn't have the space for it. But, you know, it is a good point. I do agree with you. But there's other things
I
out
just
there.
mean like you know when you go into Netflix, like people do it weekly, right? Without a doubt. People that have Netflix, we all do it weekly. We look what's there, and they do shove it right in your face. Whatever's new, they got the top 10. They'll give it the full they'll give it the full headline. Watch this. And I know that was a hit for them because they've gone 3 seasons on that now. I'm just saying like so the Toy Hunters, that was the one you mentioned. That might have been pretty good as far as audience. Comic Book Men, that did good. It ran maybe 5, 6 seasons, but it did end. And if that was being watched religiously, it would still be on. So that kind of faded off. And I did love that. Listen, I'm a Kevin Smith fan, so I like wanted to cry when that show was done. But that doesn't mean lack of audience. If that kept being a big hit, that would still be on. I just think that the reach of the Toys That Made Us, I just think everybody latched onto that, and that really exploded it. But yeah, there was other factors, and I totally agree with your point about Toys R Us. Absolutely, them going down, like surged the inventory for Walmart and Target and so many other places. So yeah,
And when KB Toys, there was just
right.
FAO Swartz, but they were bought out by Toys R Us and stuff like that. So it's just a different world than what it was back then. But as people go and things progress, people change with their interests, and they kind of rekindle those things because it's what makes them happy. So I don't know.
Now let's think back when those toy stores were actually the craze, you know, like for me going to Toys R Us was like I prefer going there than Disneyland because chances are if I went to Toys R Us and I found something, I'd be able to buy it. I'd be able to get it, and probably not at an overflated price like some of the Disney merch that I always used to see. Um, I just remember that whole experience of just how easy it was to walk into a store like that or KB Toys, which were my go-tos back in the day, and just being able to walk down those aisles and aisles of different series, different sets. And very rarely did I ever come into a situation where I couldn't find the figure or accessory or place that I was looking for. What was difficult was just being able to anticipate how much I was going to have to spend and what I might have to give up in the process. Like if I went into Toys R Us wanting, a Michelangelo figure and then I saw an NES game that I wanted and there's a chance I could get either one, like what do I quote sacrifice for that whole purpose? But I always remember just how convenient it was to be able to shop for an action figure, no matter what line it is. I've got 4 different popular lines that are still popular and pricey even today. And I just remember being able to walk down those aisles and see these lines and more. And
BFG when you were younger, were you a Toys R Us kid or KB, and were you collecting real Ghostbusters heavily?
So, I don't know about the word heavily there. I mean, I was gifted the Firehouse and the Ecto 1 and the 1A, for birthdays and Christmases. I didn't consider myself a collector. I was just a kid playing with my toys, and
right.
As a kid,
what's like that on your list? I mean, like the Christmas.
Yeah,
like as a kid, our collecting was it on the Christmas and birthday list?
It was, of course, and but here's the sad thing. As a kid, I never actually even set foot in a Toys R Us. I just saw the commercials. There wasn't one anywhere near us. And like when we go to where there was a Toys R Us, my parents wouldn't stop. Like they didn't have a reason to go to Toys R Us, so it wasn't like we were going there. But I did when we would go to the mall, they would have KB, and so that's all I know growing up. It wasn't until many, many, many years later that I experienced the full coolness that was Toys R Us.
Yeah,
it was really awesome. We're talking not until I was almost a freshman in high school before I really knew what Toys R Us was all about. So
for me, it was my grandmother that would spoil me. My parents, they would give me. Whenever I would see my grandmother, we would do our thing, which was we'd go to Friendly's. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Friendly's. It was more of a Northeast joint. You got your hot dogs and hamburgers, kind of like a greasy place, fast food, but you also had amazing ice cream sundaes. And we would get, something to eat there, a nice little sundae. It was like the little Reese's Pieces sundae. You'd put the cone of the ice cream cone on top, like a little clown. You'd foam around it, like it'd make a clown face with the Reese's Pieces and the peanut butter cups. It's hilarious. Tasted amazing. We would do that. It was like our thing. Me and my grandmother, we would go there, and we'd go in Toys R Us, and I'd pick out a toy. On a rare occasion, I would get an NES game if there was one on sale or something.
Right.
But I was a KB toy store kid because that was what was at the local mall in Connecticut where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And what I liked about KB toy stores is more of a small store, but an eclectic inventory.
Right. Very, very condensed.
So you could walk down a toy aisle. There's a little bit of everything. Or if you would go, now you would go into Toys R Us. It almost felt like when you're in a movie, renting a movie in Blockbuster, right? You'd have a ton of one thing on a wall. So you'd have like 20 of the same turtle on a peg. You'd have to, they just didn't have that kind of inventory in a KB toy store. I remember feeling poor when I would go in Toys R Us because I would look at stuff like the Tyco RC cars, and they'd be like $120. They were like $100 and up, and feeling completely priced out. I would see Genesis games for $80. I just didn't see as much stuff on sale like KB's. You'd get I would just see more stuff on sale. I don't know why that was. Price gouging or what? It just felt like that. Maybe I was wrong. That's just my memory. But I feel like more stuff felt affordable in KB Toy Store. And I was short. I'm a little kid. The reach. So you could grab anything at arm's length at a KB Toy Store. Toys R Us is like up to the wall. It's like this massive warehouse. You got to have your dad lift you up to get to that top peg, right? So that was my experience as a kid, and where I shopped at KB's.
To add to your point about Toys R Us, so Toys R Us did mark up their toys by a percentage. So they're more expensive than you would find at KB, Walmart, or whatever. So for me, and you guys have probably, the people who've checked out my podcast, I've talked about this before. I grew up with a dad who, single parent, worked really hard to take care of me and my sister. So like on the weekends, it was always like, all right, we're going to go hit up Toys R Us. Or we'd go to Shipley's Donuts and go get day-old donuts. It was like a bag of stuff that you'd get for like $5 or whatever. And then we would, get some Yahoos or Yoo-Hoos and then go to Toys R Us, go look what stuff we could find. And then we'd go hit up the flea markets to look for toys. And so like we did chores around the house, but we didn't get an allowance. Basically for us, it was like, our allowance was, and my dad would pick us up a toy here and there. Or whatever we wanted sometimes. And, so going into Toys R Us was a regular thing. And if they didn't have it, my dad would go up to the front and ask him, hey, you need to call and see if you could find this in another Toys R Us and just hold it for us so we can go get it. So we would drive all around town looking for different things because my dad was a collector too. So I got that love and joy from collecting from him. So that's why I never left it, because it was normalcy for me. And, as I grew older, I was like, I don't care what people think that I collect toys, because it's like, this is me. If you don't like who I am, then I'm sorry.
I support that 100%, bro.
Yeah, I mean, and that was one thing, is like I made so many friends from just in high school. I'd have guys come over and we'd hang out and play games. It's like, oh my God, they'd see my dad's collection of stuff, and then they'd see my stuff, and it's like, wow, it's just like I'm going back to when I was a kid. This is awesome. I never thought about these toys since I was younger, and I don't know, that's just how I was raised. But I remember going into, it was like, if we go to the mall, it was like KB Toys, then Suncoast Video, then Walden Books. You'd have these like weird little bitty toy places in different malls and things that you could find different things like that. But it was always fun. So there was a lot of times I was like, there was lots of toys I wanted that I never got, but I would be able to find them cheaper at a flea market than I would in stores. So I didn't mind having an incomplete figure, which is one of the topics I kind of wanted to kind of direct us to, is like, are you guys complete collectors versus, partially complete collectors? Do you like just a toy, or do you like to have all the accessories with it too? But sorry, Zombie.
Oh, no, don't worry about that. I was just gonna before we shift topics a little, I was gonna add to Ryan's point about KB Toys kind of being like the bargain place to kind of shop for, because Toys R Us did have those hefty price tags, but there was always a chance you were gonna find what you wanted there. But were you willing to pay the price, or were your parents willing to pay the price? With KB, I used to save up all my allowance, loose change, and everything. Look for those tags that have the red ink on them. And for those of you who shopped at KB's, you guys know what I'm talking about, where they would write 3 for 10, 4 for 20 on them. And that was such a great way to build your collections. But you also had to hope that KB was going to start clearancing stuff like that. And I remember one of the last toy lines that I almost got the complete set for, using that 3 for 10 sale, was the Ronin Warriors figures from, I think, Playmates put those out with the spring-loaded arms and legs. You could do like all these cool like judo poses with them and everything. I was such a huge fan of that anime as a kid that when the toys came out, KB was the only place that had them. And, they weren't expensive. They're what you expect for like a deluxe figure, like maybe $10. I think was the most I ever saw them for. But once those 3 for 10s went on there, oh, you best believe I'm going to be there emptying out all my allowance trying to get all the figures that I'm missing and whatnot. So I'd have to say that KB's was probably the best place to build a collection, whereas Toys R Us was kind of like the go-to source for just about anything else. If you're looking for like one random, figurine, probably your best bet would be to go there. But if you're looking to build a whole collection, it was all about KB Toys in the mall for sure.
Yeah, and let me be specific. I love Toys R Us. Look, I loved anywhere with toys, okay? So I did not have any hatred towards Toys R Us. It's just I felt like more priced out there. But man, did I love just walking. You would get lost in there because the size and scope of the store was just so big, and it's a kind of overwhelming in a way, especially when you're young and you're short and you're kind of looking up literally at all the stuff on the pegs. You're trying to just, you're like, where do I, and I always, did you guys ever remember feeling like your time is short in Toys R Us? Like you can't, you need like an hour in there, right? But your mom and dad give you like 20 minutes, right?
If that.
And in a KB, that's might be enough, 20 minutes, but not in a Toys R Us. So you almost feel like you're rushing. It's almost like an anxiety trip. Like, can I see all the aisles I want to see? I want to see the Tyco aisle. I want to see the action figure aisle. I want to see the video game aisle. Let me see the board game aisle. Let me see the Lego aisle. Because everything,
And you wonder why we have ADD.
Right?
Yeah.
I agree, because going in Toys R Us was like, you had to know what you were looking for. My family always put me on a damn timer, and as soon as I got in there, it was like I was running through Legends of the Hidden Temple. I had to know where to go. I had to know the fastest route there. I mean, it was like a covert op. You really had to know where shit was. And then I go in there, I grab what I'm looking for, and then I use that remaining time to just be like, okay, now I'm going to go see what games they have on sale. I'm going to go take a look at the Tycos that I'll never be able to afford. Because I was into that too as a kid. I loved seeing all those Tyco commercials of all the different cars that I wanted and never got. And to this day, I am still chasing the legendary Scorcher 6x6 because I wanted that car more than anything back then.
Tommy, that's the only one I had. And that's the only one I rebought as an adult is the Scorcher 6x6. That's all I got. Just that one.
I'm going to go on record then and say I hate you.
So let me say, my friend had the tracks.
Yes.
It was the Tyco tracks. It had like belts on each side.
Mm-hmm, the fast
And I
tracks.
wanted that one even more almost because it flew by my Scorcher. Like it had crazy speed. Now could it do 360s? Hell no.
Hell no.
But it was like okay, it was called the Tyco Fast Tracks.
Yep.
TRAXX.
Yep.
Yes. And that was the one my friend had. you had those friends that would always like have the one thing you didn't have. It just always worked out that way. They'd have the bike you didn't have, like another cool one just like it but different. They'd have like the Tyco car you didn't have, another cool one but just different.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things. And so it made it perfect to play at each other's houses all the time because between both of you had it all,
Right, but then you also had those moments where it's like, you know what? Who would rat on me if I beat him up and took his toy? Especially when it came to Tyco cars, because those things were not cheap.
And they were made. Let me tell you, they were made better than this shit today because I would crash that into the curb accidentally and like almost want to cry. Like I'm scared. Did I break it? And nope, it was still intact. Those things could take a beating. Tyco cars were made well.
Yes, they were.
Yeah, I don't know. I was never like into remote control cars. I mean, for me, it was like, certain toy lines. It was G.I. Joe. I always like wanted the Flag and, the Defiant. It was Transformers. It was Turtles. Dang, I'm trying to think of some other stuff. But like, it was like certain toy lines that I enjoyed. So,
right.
But we were in there so long. It was like I always wanted to do the, the Toy Spree that they would do.
Oh yeah, Nickelodeon Toy Spree or whatever that was called.
Yeah, for Toys R Us. And I was like, man, I would get in and grab like so many Transformers and GI Joes. They would feel like they lost money doing those sweepstakes.
I would use the arm sweep movement where you just put your arm right behind the whole line and just push them all in there. Like, who cares what you get? Just bring home a bunch of shit. Like, that was the ideal way to do it, at least in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But you bring up a good point. The concept of toy collecting for specific lines, is that something worth doing to this day? Is it still fun?
That's where it comes to the whole thing of like, are you a retro collector or a modern collector? Mm-hmm. Because it's cheaper sometimes just to be a line collector if you're modern. But it can work both ways. I mean, like if you wanted to like collect the old retro turtles, you could probably do that and get the whole line and all the vehicles and everything and be completely done. But the problem is that's a slippery slope.
So let me get your thoughts on this as our guest tonight, Vince. The technology today should make it so that, in my mind, the paint and colors are more accurate than before, whereas it's actually the opposite because some of the Playmates Turtles re-releases, they're off on the paint. And I don't know if this is cutting corners to save money. That's my guess. But the technology is there that I would think there'd be a way to do it just as good as they used to, if not better, at a cheaper cost with machinery and technology and, paint and I don't know, whatever. But it's not the case. Like the Bebop, I'll give you an example, direct example. The Bebop figure on the Playmates re-releases, they paint black over the belt and the shoes, everything. So from the fucking belt down, waist down, it's all black. Complete bullshit. On the original figure, you'd have like different colors on the belt, different colors on the pants, accents, different shoes, different like that kind of stuff. So like they're just lazily like the bottom half of the figure, like you don't care. But guess what? We have the original to look at. Now this looks like a lazy piece of shit. You're not even getting the same paint design as the original. So I would have thought they'd be able to do that cheaply, do even better with paint today, but now they're doing it worse.
Well, it goes to the whole thing of like who they're marketing for, right? So a lot of those figures aren't meant for adult collectors as far as the Playmates figure line is. They're more designed for little kids. You're talking about, even like you've talked about like the new line of figures that they're doing, right? They're not as great as the NECAs. They're not as good as Super 7s.
Right.
And then even with them doing the retro line, they're not producing them enough that everybody who wants them can get them. They're just putting them in these giant boxes that has like 6 figures in them.
Yeah.
Plus, they haven't been producing these figures in a long time, so they might not even have the same type of paint to be able to match it to, or the machine that they used to do that in the beginning in the first place.
But Vince, let me do devil's advocate and BFG. I want his thoughts on this. The real Ghostbusters reissues are spot on identical.
Okay.
Aside from the year on the packaging,
And
the paint is the same, the artwork looks the same, down to the box art, even on the Ecto car. I mean, how do you feel, BFG? I mean, I don't see any difference in the originals.
The figures are pretty much spot on. The Ecto, there are a few minor differences I've noticed when I compare my original to the new one, but it's not something you would really like notice at first glance. I have another re-release toy that they did of the Ghost Popper, and I still have my original Ghost Popper from when I was a kid. The colors do not match on that. So for the most part, they did a really good job. But I think some of this, kind of like what Vince was saying, just in manufacturing, who knows, mass producing these things, concessions probably had to be made, or they had to maybe change it just a tad for whatever the reason is. It's hard to say.
And just something to add to that too, we're talking about Hasbro versus Playmates. Playmates hasn't really made a good toy line in a long time.
Yeah, they probably definitely don't have the funding as Hasbro.
Yeah.
But Vince, they were the shit back in the day. Oh man, they killed it. Didn't they do the Toxic Crusaders line too, Zombie?
Yep.
Yeah. That was a beautiful line. The paint, oh my god. The paint and the sculpts on those, some of the best ever.
A lot of the Playmates lines were relatively the same size. So Turtles, Toxic Crusaders, a lot of those could accompany a different line's vehicles and playsets, which was a very smart move in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, even look, you got like Loyal Subjects also making turtle figures that are like 100 times better than the Playmates figures that are coming out right now.
I want to do something like a roundtable right now of why I care so much about. It's not just about, because some people say it's about the nostalgia, it's about the childhood. It's about, okay, here's why it's about more for me. These are works of art to me. Okay, these figures, whether they're vintage or modern, have to be sculpted. They have to go through design processes like a fucking car does. Maybe not to the extent, but you know what I mean. They have to go through approvals and sculpts and redos, and they have to be durable. They have to have points of articulation. To me, it's art, man. And when I display them on a shelf, it's not about just my childhood. Yeah, that's a piece of it. I fucking love the product. I love the actual toy brand a lot of times, the story behind them, the history. I love the show behind these figures that they're associated with, maybe video games associated with it too. It's all that. And for the people that don't get 40-year-old men with action figures, they're art to me, man. Just like somebody is showing like paintings in a gallery, these are fucking works of art. They're tiny sculptures, like you would see in an art gallery. They're made with that kind of attention to detail. If they're a good toy, if they're worth a shit, they are. And that's why, and what they mean to me. I just want to say, like, what, Zombie, Vince, BFG, like what, and BFG, even if you're not as passionate about toys, I mean, I know it's more than just your childhood. Let's give people what do they really mean to us, man? At least to me, they mean a lot.
I would agree go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Zombie.
I was going to say that I would agree that they are works of art no matter which version of a toy line you collect, because a lot really does go into making these more than we think they do. I know we've seen like pretty shitty made toys over the years too, just like we've seen very shitty games made over the years as well. But you still got to respect what went into them. You still got to respect that somebody was able to put their creativity to work and bring to life a lot of these really cool lines. So I do respect the artistic quality of a lot of toy lines. Um, I have to say that the McFarlane line when they first launched was probably the the highest extent a toy could look, at least at that given time. Unfortunately, they weren't really action figures you would want to play with. You mostly displayed those. Uh, but I also feel that they do encompass a part of my childhood, a part of my life where, you know, not to sound cliche, but there was that sort of innocence that thrills, you even as a kid, remembering finding that figure on card, um, bringing it home, the anticipation of just waiting to tear through that package, um, and then if you had more than one, adding it to the collection. It was like bringing home a new pet. Like, you could collect all the turtles, for example, and be like, hey, let's welcome, I finally got the Super Shredder figure and that kind of stuff. There was a thrill to finding the toys, bringing them home. So there's a little bit of that excitement, I feel, even to this day, with bringing home some of the action figures that you've been wanting. Aside from that, I mean, if you're in it for, I would say, pretty much the same reason that I'm into preservation of video games and technology, you can be into preserving toy lines and figures and series that nobody has seen in like the last 20, 30 years, or even just preserving what the originals look like how I've got the original 80s turtles to what NECA's interpretations of them are nowadays. So it's a really cool way to kind of show the history of not only the line itself, but where toy collecting has gone. So I think it encompasses more than just a lot of people realize, and a lot more than what people want to admit too.
Just look at Pixel Dan's book on
Right?
Masters Universe, that there's that much of a demand for the history, the full line in picture form, and to read about each figure and the history behind it. There is a demand. People want to know that information. I always like to defend, because one of the, like, as toy collectors, one of the things we take a hit on is, why the fuck do you guys want to display something on card? Why do you want to have a toy if you never open it? Right? Well, here's why. Because the art on the figure is beautiful. The way it's packaged, it's got all the accessories intact, stuck there, so you're not going to lose them easily. You got your card back information. You got all the figures that are in that line that you need to look for. You got usually a write-up, paragraphs about that toy, about that figure, about that show. It's all that is the reason that, because for people that don't collect, they don't understand that. Why you want to buy something and just stick it on a shelf and never open it? What the fuck is that, right?
Right.
And I understand that, but that's why, because of all those things, that's why we do that,
The
and that's why we
intricacies.
care, because of all that stuff on there.
Yeah. I mean, video game box art, for example, has really cool artwork and detail on it, and that's part of why I like displaying certain CIB games. And I'm the same way with my toys too. I tend to collect a lot of stuff on cards still, if I can, and then I'll try to open up another one just so I can have it for display, or if little zombie wants to play with extra He-Mans that I've got lying around. So there's something to be said for the box art too, but I think that correlates to what Vince was saying about what type of collector are you. I think that's something you gotta really establish early on before you even jump into the hobby.
Oh yeah.
So for me, I don't know. Just to go back to Ryan's question. Toys have just been like, I don't know, like my collection is a window into my past, so I can look at something and I'll be transported back to when I was a kid, eating cereal, watching that cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Or a memory I have an association with me and my dad finding that original toy. But as far as like keeping my figures sealed, the only reason why I do that most of the time is I don't have a place to display them. So yeah, I can just pin them up on the wall. They're there. But eventually, I want to be able to display them. So I'm going to take them out of the packaging. Eventually I'm going to build dioramas because I want to create these little scenes that I love doing. I love being creative and having my figures in these awesome like action poses and stuff. And recreating a scene from the cartoon is just going to take it even to the next level.
Oh, absolutely.
But toys to me, they've just been a sense of joy. I mean, I can grab one of my Transformers, I can transform it back and forth to whatever it is, and then, put it back on my shelf. Or if my son wants to play with it, as long as it's not one of my really expensive ones, he can play with it. I know he's not going to break it. But then there's other ones that, like, my friends are like, you shouldn't let him play with that. And I'm like, it's all right. He's old enough to realize that if it breaks, that's my fault, for one. But I am hopefully teaching him not to, destroy my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, just toys are just a safe thing. I've never done drugs. It was just my dad's like, you shouldn't. I've done it. He just laid it out there. He's like, this is what it can do. These are what it can affect you with. And it's like, I didn't. So I was like, okay. And I was just raised that, like, I don't ever want to do anything that's going to prevent me from doing what I like. I like collecting toys. I like playing video games. I like watching movies. So I'm going to do something that's going to thread the line it's going to take me away from what I enjoy doing. So toys prevented me that. And I was like, I could go buy whatever drug, but I can I can go buy like these awesome action figures that I can sit on my wall, and I'm going to have more fun with those than I am with like whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, luckily I found a wife that, accepts this. She doesn't care. She actually likes this stuff. So, it's a double win there. But, toys have been one of my passions for a long time, and I'll continue to do it till I'm old and in the grave. Then hopefully they'll be able to sell my collection off.
Right.
So I have a question for the man with the most kids. I have a question for the man with 9
Could you be more
children.
specific?
I want to know what toys the kids of today are playing with. What toys are in Big Family Gaming's house?
Well, that's a tough one, because we don't we purposely don't buy a lot of toys because they usually end up broken or thrown out.
Right.
They'll have periods of where they're playing with some Lego sets. Lightsabers are a big hit, of course. The Nerf guns are also a staple. But every once in a while, just for fun, we'll buy like a couple weeks ago, we bought a cap gun for one of the kids. And it was one of those old school cap guns where you had to put the paper caps and you could smell the, as you, and so we try to keep things simple around here. If they want something, they want video games or a tablet or that's
Right.
more like on their want list nowadays, not these specific toys. Although I do have one daughter who is very much into the LOL surprise line. So for Christmas she got a big LOL. I don't know if you're familiar with them or have seen them in the stores.
I am.
And for her age, I don't see a problem with it. For anybody that's not familiar, you would usually buy like a large item. So like for example, we bought for Christmas, she got the camper, and then inside the camper it's packed full of toys, but they're almost like in blind bags but they're not totally blind bags because it kind of shows you on the outside of the box everything you're supposed to get, but you don't know what's in what bag as you open them up. So, that's the surprise part of it. But yeah, besides that, there's not. Yeah, we got a couple Fortnite toys hanging around too. So, it's just kind of depends on what their mood is until they move on to the next thing.
But that's good though. I mean, there's still, because how sad is that going to be a day when there's no toys at all in a house and it's just tablets and it's just, I mean, where's it's about that's another thing we really got to mention, that the big thing for us growing up as 80s, 90s children was using our imagination, was the fun of these. We wanted to live out the shows. That's why we had the Ghostbusters backpack to put on in the, what'd you call it, the popper that they reissued. That's why
the Ghost Popper.
We wanted to pretend we were Ghostbusters. We didn't want to just watch it. We wanted to have the toys. We wanted to be Ghostbusters. We wanted to be Ninja Turtles. We wanted to use our imaginations, and that was a big part of the draw. And that's what's sad to me, if we lose that over the generations, is you got to use your imagination, because imagination is everything as a kid.
Now, something we haven't talked about, but let me also tell you, it ties into your question a little bit, and maybe this will lead into a good discussion here, is what another thing is keeping this alive, and what they do get excited about, mostly because we don't do it too often. But if there's something out there and they see it, they will let me know, is the McDonald's toys.
Yeah.
McDonald's has these toys, right? And so we don't do a lot of McDonald's, but if we do, then every once in a while they'll get a Happy Meal for the toy. And so that's something that, as you're having this discussion about art and the artwork and stuff, I was kind of thinking about McDonald's toys. You think about that, they probably don't get the appreciation that they probably need for as much as design and development that goes into releasing these things. And then they try to make them as cheap as possible, right? Because they're trying to stick them in with the
right.
But we were spoiled growing up. We had the height of Happy Meal toys going on. So I think that's something that should be mentioned here.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point, because there's other, like, Taco Bell and Burger King stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody remember the Chihuahua that, Yo Quiero Taco Bell, and they had a whole toy line of Yo Quiero Taco Bell Chihuahua?
Oh yeah. I think the BFG, I think the McDonald's changeables, the McNugget Buddies line, the original line, the Halloween one, those, I put those up there with some of the best toys, and not even just Happy Meal toys, like just toys in general. They were great. I love the Simpsons, basically the vinyl dolls they put out that look just like the show at Burger King.
Mm-hmm.
I recently just bought the Aladdin and Lion King full toy set from Burger King in the 90s. I got new old stock of them and opened them up right out of the bag like they were new. They were built so well, and the likeness is straight out of the movie. It's like the likeness is so good on those Lion King toys specifically that it's like they had to collaborate with fucking Disney. They look so much like the fucking movie. So, I mean, yeah, they were making fast food toys so good then that they were just as good. I put them up there with actual action figures,
And unfortunately, they've taken a hit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, even when they do good toy lines and stuff, like modern, stuff, it's like, you run the risk of not being able to complete the set because scalpers go in and buy all the Happy Meals before all the kids can get them and make it not fun for them.
Mm-hmm.
One of the other things I was going to add to the point that Ryan was trying to make is that, unfortunately, we are moving in that direction of, toyless families. I mean, there's a movement to kind of reduce the use of plastic. So what are we going to create toys out of if it's not plastic? And then on top of that, we're pricing. The biggest point of this is that we're pricing kids out of collecting toys.
Yes.
And it's to the point right now that, like, figures that we would have gotten back in the day that would have been $5 to $10 at the most. $20. Here's $20, and you can get, like, you can walk away with, anywhere between 5 to maybe 3 figures. Is now like you're buying one figure. Probably won't even have enough to cover the tax now. Marvel Legends are now like $22 or $24. Star Wars Black Series, same thing. Hasbro has completely just increased the price on these figures and have just made it impossible for kids to be able to afford this stuff. So what's the easier alternative for a parent? Okay, I can go buy him toys, or I can get him a tablet where he can at least engage with his cousin or sister or whoever, and then they can play games together, and they can use it for school. It's like the best option for them. Sadly, they don't. So these kids don't go outside. They're like sitting in class talking about, the latest app I downloaded. Society is just moving in that direction, sadly. And I don't know how we would change that, especially with things going way out of the range for kids. And toys aren't made for kids anymore. They're made for adult collectors or the kids of the 80s.
Right. The collectors who went from, piggy banks to, debit accounts. We're the ones that they're marketing towards, because they're like, okay, before maybe they weren't able to buy as much because they only had so much allowance or whatever. Now that we all have jobs and incomes, it's like, okay, let's get back those customers that we had, and in the hopes they'll bring more with them kind of angle. I look at the Legends and the black box figures as the McFarlane figures of today, where there's so much detail in the sculpt. There's so much into the paint jobs and the character traits and likeness that these are toys that you're not going to take to the sandbox. If these were much simpler action figures, they'd probably be smaller. They'd probably be cheaper, but there'd be a lot of cool things that, you could take to the playground with. I remember bringing my Turtles to school, or bringing my X-Men to school, or just any of the play sets really that we were able to bring into school before they got confiscated. Nowadays, I don't see kids wanting to rush out and get the newest Marvel Legend. It's kind of like, well, I'll get something cool that maybe my parents or my older siblings into as that status symbol, or maybe they'll just get whatever is popular on TV or popular online.
It's funny you said McFarlane. It's funny you said McFarlane, Jesse, because I don't see that stuff moving well in Target. When I go to Target and when I go to Walmart, I try to hit them like once or twice a month. I don't go there that regularly because, look at gas right now.
Right.
But, when I do go there, the Batman and DC stuff, which they have the license to now, McFarlane, are just sitting there. And what's picked over is the Marvel Legends. What's picked over is the Motu. What's picked over is the Black Series, Star Wars. Yeah, I do not see his stuff moving like it used to. The sculpts are good, but it's just not hot right now for whatever reason.
I can tell you why. Because it's moving online.
Yep.
People are buying their stuff because McFarlane is still doing what toy companies of today should be doing. He's doing what they used to do back in the day, where he mass produces the stuff and has it out there for people to buy it. Mm-hmm. And there's so many options to buy these more, because, man, and some of the toy groups, they're like, there's guys that have tons of these figures. They collect them, and it's great because they're like, well, I can't find one, and they'll help them out find one. But it also depends on the location. Where you're at, people may, already had the figures because there's like a Walmart and Target everywhere. But if you're in a small town, or a small city, you may not have that option, and those figures are picked through.
I'm seeing Jurassic Park sitting a lot too. A lot of that inventory. A lot of like 50. Okay, there's the T-Rex scene from the first one for $50 at Target. 50 of them sitting in there, and they didn't move. They didn't move at that price. I don't know if people, don't want to spend 50 on it. It's the T-Rex coming in with the Jeep, and it's got the backdrop. I don't know if you've seen those. They're just sitting there. There's like all these versions of the T-Rex. Some make a sound, some are rubber, some have dino damage. I see a lot of that shit sitting. I'm just saying what I see move, and I'm going to multiple Targets and Walmarts. I'm not just, like in a little fish tank here, looking at my own local. I go to, like, when I drive around Florida and hit different towns, I'll just stop at one, and that's what I see sitting. The NECA stuff is still moving really good. But as I've noticed, even with the NECA stuff, a lot of that stuff is sitting, and I think it's more because of price. The NECA stuff is getting really pricey. Some of those 2-packs, the turtles, like they'll have a 4-pack of turtle. It's $100 for 4 turtles for some of those.
Well, yeah, the new one's like $125 or something like that.
So I think they're starting to price people out on some of that shit. Well,
yeah, NECA's definitely trying to produce enough for people to meet the demand, because they weren't doing that like for 2 years, man. Yeah, it was impossible to find any of that stuff, and I'm still having trouble looking for the Channel 6-pack, and then we got the Comic-Con exclusive with the human forms for Splinter, Bebop and Rocksteady, and come on, who's the other? Baxter Stockman. That's, San Diego Comic-Con exclusive. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been my biggest thing. So, like, when I collected the G.I. Joe, the 25th, the modern line, so 25th to the 50th, there was the G.I. Joe Con exclusives. Or there was the G.I. Joe Comic-Con exclusives. Because there was the G.I. Joe Con that they did up until, like, I don't know. I don't remember the year they stopped doing it, but there were specific figures they would do for that, and then there were specific figures they would do for these collector club, and it completely priced me out of like collecting for that line. All I could get was the retail stuff, and that's frustrating. I really hate con exclusive stuff. If you're not going to give people the opportunity to pick these things up, I'm willing to give money, but I'm not willing to give money to somebody else, who's selling it. Right. So.
And that's a whole separate market in itself, the Comic-Con scene, the exclusive scene.
Yeah, because they just announced, NECA just announced all of their exclusives for Comic-Con this year. And I think Funko just announced theirs as well, and a couple others. So it's just going to be fun trying to find these figures and, the time of everything that we're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it when it's like, so I'm not a big Funko guy, but I can't complete that Killer Clowns line because of the one that's the exclusive, harder to find one. What's the one that's harder to find? Zombie? Because I have 3, not the 4. Yeah. There's one that's hard to find.
It's the
in that.
It's I want to say it's not spiky. It's the tall, skinny one.
Yeah, and that's an exclusive, right? To something?
Yeah, he's an exclusive.
See, that bums me out. Okay, it's one thing when you make an exclusive on a one-off, but, like, that really irritates me. So when there's an exclusive to finish a set of 4, that bums me out because, like, now there's, like, that's, when there's something like that, there's 3 or 4 or something, I'd like to finish that set. And I'm not going to pay, $100 for a pop. Fuck no. So I'll never have that. So that irritates me more than if it was just a one-off, fine. But when it's like to finish off a set of 4, that bums me out to make something exclusive, and then they just price gouge on eBay. You know, so I do hate that kind of thing.
So it's sad too because oh, come on, I completely lost my train of thought here. COVID brain, it sucks. Um, you know, with sometimes you can get really good opportunities to find some of these figures in some of the toy groups. If you're in the right good one, the right group on Facebook, you might be able to find one that'll actually pick something up for you at cost. So you're not having to pay like extra. The only thing you're gonna have to pay is probably shipping and handling.
Yep.
You just gotta have those right connections.
One thing I want to bring up: vintage versus modern. It's not always better vintage. I'll give you an example. Motu, O-rings, stretch out, loose limbs, vintage He-Man falling over. My trick is I'll lean them up against Castle Grayskull if they got loose limbs. But that is one improvement. We got on the new line, it's almost better, in every way. I hate to say it, but it is. And more articulation. You're never gonna have the loose limbs. You can swap out the heads easily. Right. They're on a ball pivot joint. They really have improved, and I'm sure the new Joes aren't with O-rings. I'm sure those don't. They fixed that. So we have evolved and improved some things over time, for sure. We can't always say, because I know that's an easy thing to say. We like to be as retro heads. We're like, oh, vintage is always better. But wait, some things, the O-rings did not age well when they're all falling over and you can't stand anything up. So we have when we're talking vintage versus modern tonight, we got to highlight that we've improved the way that they're structured, the figures.
Something to add to your other point about the exclusives. Mattel has a great job of, making their exclusive figures like the one-off characters, or the special ones that maybe didn't have a figure for the original stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But going to the new point, which is what the topic was and why I kind of pushed the idea for this topic in general, is like you look at like NECA, right? And then Super 7. So you have the NECA Turtles. If you're just looking at the cartoon line, they look like they just jumped out of the screen. Versus like the Super 7, they look just like their the original toys.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I had to cough there. So what's great about that is you get two different varieties of what you're collecting for. If you want to go for that look of having something that looks like it was retro, Super 7 is your option.
Jesse, I don't know if you've seen these. So I want to make sure we're clear about this. Super 7, the majority of what they make are those kind of tiny Kenner-sized figures.
Right.
We're not talking about that. So I'm not sure if you've seen them, Jesse. They're fucking amazing. They're the TMNT Ultimates. They're in a big size. They're almost like 8 or 9-inch figures. They're fucking unbelievable sculpt and detail and paint. And they come in these amazing clear front boxes, almost like a NECA. They're like in the $40 range, which is kind of pricey, but you get your money's worth out of these things. They're unbelievable, the packaging on these. So I just think, when a lot of people hear Super 7, they think of those Kenner style, kind of small. That's not what we're talking about. These Ultimates
figures, yeah.
And I think they're making some for Thundercats too, and they look amazing.
Thundercats. They're doing G.I. Joe, which is based off the actual cartoon, for not the figure line. Silverhawks.
Yep. Which I want. I've seen those.
That's one of those lines you just can't get that shit. You just can't get Silverhawks. And if you're talking mint on card, forget about it. There's something about Silverhawks. They just wasn't as many of them bought, or they're obscure. And that's a good line. I'm glad to hear that, because that's a line you just can't afford.
Nope.
You can't afford Silverhawks on card.
And even if you can afford Silverhawks, they're probably all banged up and the chrome paint's scratched off. Yeah. It sucks.
Right. They go for a fortune even loose, the Silverhawks.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them. The only one I have is the villain. And I'm bad with names, Zombie. You got to help me out. What's the red villain? You can kind of
Monstar, I think it was.
Monstar.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can flip his head into the different forms.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only one that's ever affordable. It's like 20 or 30. But yeah, then the rest of them, oh my god, the ones with the chrome, yeah,
Yep.
totally unaffordable.
I still have my original Monstar, but he's missing his front chest plate. The power action still works, but he just needs a new chest plate up front. And then I have my original Buzzsaw figurines, but as for like Quicksilver and Bluegrass and all the ones I had, Copper Kid, I have no idea where those ended up because my family had this really nasty habit of just assuming if I didn't play with a toy that particular day, it meant I didn't want it anymore. So
And here's a funny thing. You know what a vac metal line is that doesn't go for anything though? Captain Power. Those are affordable all day on card.
yep, even sealed in box, you can sometimes get a good deal on those.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
I'm looking at some of my Captain Power toys right now. I think the one thing that I would want, other than a new what is it, what was the good guys jet? The ATJX or something like that, is a Phantom Striker. I want one to go with. You gotta have the bad guy to go with the good guy. It's an unspoken rule. And that's another thing I miss about collecting back in the old days was you could always find a bad guy to go with the good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, you're lucky if you find one or the other.
And it's definitely cool the age we live in with toys, though, for the fact that we're getting toy lines for figures that we haven't had toy lines for in a long time. Like there's a company that's doing the Centurion figures,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's talks about doing oh crap, I'm trying to remember what it was. I just looked at it the other day. If I remember, I'll bring it up. But it's just really cool, like I know there was talks also about the Jason the World Warriors possibly getting
that would be
a new.
Oh,
but
man.
I don't know. That may have been just something I was hearing somebody was talking about. But there's a lot of toy lines that would be cool to see being redone. But it's like, you got NECA redoing the the Aliens figures from back then, and those are great. And then also you got the RoboCop figures that they're doing with that 209. You got RoboCop in his chair. You can take his helmet off so you can see, Murphy. And it's great. And, the likeness is amazing. It's like, that's more nostalgic for me seeing that than seeing the original toy, even though I had the original toy. And I guess that's also kind of thing for me is like, I like to have figures that represent the media I consumed, not the toys I played with, because I always wanted a better toy.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess that's where I come from. Is like I had the turtles, but it's like, man, I wish they had better articulation. I can't really pose them. They're kind of squatting all the time, and their arms are always bent. I can't get them in some really good poses. And, the foot soldiers, all the characters from the Turtles line are all like that. They're just always squatting and, I can't get them in any kind of good poses.
Yeah. And that's where I applaud companies, not changing the design too much, like not having too much liberty with it, but taking what was known about the figure previously and improving upon it. The new Motu, I love the fact that there's more articulation and posability with those. Some of the newer redesigned turtles have that where they don't fall over easily like the originals do. And that's where I applaud some of these things being remade because they took what kind of sucked about some of our original line and they found a way to make it, better. They didn't change it too much, but they just made it better. They added more detail. They added more, features. A lot of that stuff that we probably took for granted in some cases when we were younger, but nonetheless they make buying these remakes worth it. unlike say a remake of a movie or of a song where you kind of question whether or not it's worth investing in. But when I'm able to see the new Motus at Walmart, I can't help but fall in love with those again. They tend to be characters I don't want, but it's just still cool to kind of see those and remember what it was like to see them the first time. And now being able to look at them with my son and be like, see, that's a toy right there. That's worth, picking up and playing with, not this new junk that they got.
So a lot of the focus we've had is definitely on the action figure, but one of the things that I've really enjoyed collecting is the kind of weird stuff. Okay, what I mean by weird stuff is like, the collectors carrying cases with the cool art and it's all like laminated plastic collectors cases where you put all your figures in that have really cool art. I love collecting stuff like the plastic lunch boxes from Ghostbusters and Turtles. I love Boglins. Obviously those have been a big hit coming back, which are puppets, not action figures. I love like Mad Balls that are not action figures. They're, you throw them around like a baseball, but they had awesome horror, kind of grimy, bloody faces or like monsters or, so stuff like that. I love to mix that in with the action figure collection. I just think it varies it, I like to pick up something like a Teddy Ruxpin or Alf, like one of those plushes back from the 80s. Like I like the variety of just the collecting. I never was like, I'm just going to get this one line. I just think that would be boring because I like the museum feel of an eclectic collection, wide and varied, because I have this, I don't know if you guys agree, a lot of lines I feel like they have a jump the shark moment, just like a TV show, right? Just like Fonzie jumping the shark on Happy Days. The Turtles, they fucking jumped the shark, man. When you got like Farmer Turtle, I've joked about it before, but like, when you got ridiculous fucking turtles that I'd never want to own, I'm done with that line. And I draw a line in the sand. I don't want the line after that. It's like they just got greedy and they got stupid and the creativity was down. So I like to kind of cut off a line in the sand sometimes. And a lot of these toy lines that I like it up to a point and I stop collecting it after that. And it opens you up for other stuff to collect. You don't have to just have one thing. So have you ever felt like that, Vince, or Jesse, or in a toy line where they kind of lose you? They had you, now they lost you.
Well, I mean, for me, if I see a crazy figure that just doesn't feel like out of place, I just didn't buy it. I mean, it didn't stop me from enjoying the line as a whole. But I mean, like for me, Transformers is one of the ones that's my ultimate toy line. I love Transformers. I always will. I never really felt the only moment they kind of like jumped the shark and went into like a weird area was the Action Masters. It was Transformers that did not transform, but they were the same size as G.I. Joes at the time. And it's like you've completely lost the appeal of what Transformers was about. And, that was because, Hasbro was going through some weird phases with, like, what they were trying to do. And it was at the end of the series. They actually started the whole, basically, like, the last season of Transformers was the Headmasters, and they ended it. But in Japan, we got, the Headmasters, the Master Force and more, and then there was just like tons of toys that we never got, but they did get produced in Europe. But one toy line I feel, I mean, it's like that the Transformers is completely progressed in a way that every figure that we get of at least the new modern stuff, not the stuff that's made for kids, because these figures are definitely not made for kids, but they can be bought for kids. Because the engineering and transformation for some of these Transformers is just impossible. Like, I know I give my son a figure and it's like, here, Dad, can you transform this to me? And I show him how to transform it and he gets it. But it's like if he doesn't know how to know the knowledge of knowing how to do it, I don't know how a kid or a parent that's never played with Transformers is ever going to do it.
Mm-hmm. And they're gonna risk breaking it trying to change it
Yeah.
to either form, really. Yeah, I feel that eventually, when a series goes on for too long, they do hit that point, and you kind of have to look at it and second guess. You know, like Vince said, you look at it and you just decide whether or not it's worth investing in and whatnot. Um, Most of the time, if I'm not impressed with it, I don't give it a second glance. I just kind of leave it where it's at. Um, but very rarely have a lot of series I like done that. At least to the point where I was already happy with the collection I had and I didn't need anything else. But I would agree, Turtles was definitely the one where they really oversaturated the market. That I think they overstayed their welcome to some extent.
Because I'd even say GI Joe did that too, with the whole like the drug task force, the neon green and orange colors that they started having them. It's like, yeah, you wouldn't do that in a military setting at all.
Mm-hmm.
The space setting with the aliens, it just like it went crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was cool having the figures, but like from a standpoint now, it's like, man, these would not work in combat at all.
It correlates to what me and Cutie Bat were talking about yesterday. We started watching Stranger Things season 4, and without any spoilers, there's some moments in the new series that we know would never happen. And she told me like she hates it when a movie or a TV show or a cartoon, not so much a cartoon, but like live action movies and TV shows where they have these moments that kind of pull you out of what you're watching and then you just kind of like are put off by that. I feel that toys have that same appeal too, where there's just a point where it pulls you out of what made collecting and what made playing with a lot of these lines just really fun, and you second guess whether or not you want to buy anything else for it or support the line in any way. So I kind of feel that they have that same appeal to them, sadly. um, but when I look back on what I used to collect back then versus what I might do now, the passion and the interest is still there. It's just whether or not I'll have the price point, which is odd because you think, well, I'm older now, I have my own income, why can't I still afford what I want?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know if necessarily that's just the part of that's the responsibility of these toy makers, or if it's just, my situation really hasn't changed much financially, I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because every time you get a raise, the toy prices go up or
Yep.
everything else goes up. So you never really kind of like move forward to be able to buy more. But I definitely have to talk to you about Stranger Things. I want to know what we'll do that off the podcast because I want to know what took you out of the episode because I really enjoyed it. But
Oh, for sure.
um, you know, going back to Ryan's point too of like seeing toys being able to progress. You think of like Jetfire when he was
Uh,
first released. It was clearly a mold from Robotech or Macross at the time,
yeah.
being retooled, repainted to be Jetfire. Looked nothing like he did in the cartoon,
Nope.
and there was a lot of reasons why that happened. There was some legal stuff, but it's amazing that we now have within like the Earthrise toy line that just came out like 2 years ago a figure that looks exactly like he did in the show
Mm-hmm.
of Skyfire but he's still called Jetfire.
Right.
Or, and it looks amazing and it's great being able. There's like toys that I want to be seen made from the cartoon that have never been done yet, and it was so amazing being able to see a good Ironhide figure from the Masterpiece line that went from that van to what he did screen accurately as the robot. And I never got that as a kid. You ever look at the old Ironhide figure? He's got just this window shield and this, like, he doesn't even really have a head. And he was more of a parts former because, like, his back half kind of like becomes like a shoulder thing or something. I mean, it's so weird. Like the toys, or what we thought were good toys back then, and in reality they weren't.
Mm-hmm. I think we were just so glad to finally have something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when, like Brian said, we didn't just want to watch these shows. We wanted to be a part of it in some way. We wanted to have our reenactments. I loved collecting the Kenner Aliens line for that reason, because I was such a huge fan as a kid that when I saw that commercial, and for the very first time I'm in my living room and, you know, you hear "Send in the Marines," and you just see all the characters that you know from the second movie, and there's a toy of them, and you don't care how cheap they look or how inaccurate they are. You're just like, I can own a Ripley figure. I can own a Power Loader. I can own the Queen Xenomorph and reenact that badass battle with it.
Oh, yeah.
Just all of that come to life was such a thrill. And when I see the new NECA lines, I still kind of have that same enjoyment where I look at it and I go, damn, look at that detailing and whatnot. But I still feel that these are toys that I would probably not play with. I would rather keep them in their designer box and have them look awesome on my wall or on my shelf. And then if I really wanted to reenact aliens, I'll go bust out the box that's got my classic line in there.
So I do see something that we haven't really kind of talked about girl toys, if you guys want to go into that a little bit.
Yeah, I've been answering J-Chip's question about that. He asked about what are some of the girl toy lines that we thought were kind of cool, and I threw out some that I remember my cousins having. Gem and the Holograms, you know, that was like such a cool 80s looking doll with the whole stage setup and everything. Like, it screamed 80s. It screamed hair metal, glam rock, and it looked cooler and had cooler features than what Barbie eventually came out with. So that was one of the cooler things that I used to like playing with my cousin whenever she asked me to. I was like, yeah, but if I'm going to play Barbies with you, we got to bust out Gem and the Holograms. We got to get that rocker scene going.
My answer to that, for me, there was just too many guys. There was just too many boys, too many good boy toy lines for me to even think about a girl toy line I would have wanted, you know? Because there's no, like, I could only get a fraction. I could only afford a tenth of what the boy toy lines that were available, let alone what I ever want to think about a girl's toy line. Now, I will say, deep down, though, I thought some of the Care Bears shit was cool. Like, it looked cool. It was very bright and vibrant.
Popples.
And that's not maybe necessarily just a girls thing, because boys and girls watch Care Bears. But I did think that a lot of their sets and the figures, I liked a lot of the colors on that, and I thought that was cool. But I didn't necessarily want it. I just appreciated it. You know? It's one of those things. Because it's just like, you know, okay, like, say you're in an arcade and there was some game that was, you know, more for girls or something, but like 100 games that look badass. It's like you would only want to, for me, I would only get those after I had finished all the cool boy games I wanted to play. That's like, you know, after the fact. So my head was never there for that, you know? And I guess the closest I would get to a girl toy would just be like when you get the girl X-Men figures, you know? You get like Jubilee or something, and I thought those were cool. So that was close enough for me. I mean, I just never saw anything that I thought was cool in the girls' toy commercials. I got to be honest. I really don't. Aside from some of the vehicles, I thought some of the vehicles were cool. They got all the convertibles, right?
Right.
They got all the cool convertibles.
That was it for me. For me, I always wanted that Barbie Corvette convertible. That
Get,
Yeah.
thing was sweet.
get that for your
Um,
real big G.I. Joe figures instead.
Or you could have done like what I did, as I took my sister's and had my Gizmo stuffed animal sitting in it,
oh yeah, that
trying to
would have been
recreate
great.
the ending
There
of
you go.
Gremlins.
No, my
I think
cousin
one
was the
thing-
one that had it.
So what I thought was kind of unfair was that a lot of the girls' play sets were so much bigger than the ones we got. That would piss me off. Like, so you get these deluxe Barbie mansions, right? But like, Castle Grayskull was the biggest fucking thing we could get, or like the Technodrome was the biggest thing we could get, and USS Flag, okay, that's another story. But you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of the size and scope of these girls sets, I was mad, why don't we get more like a fortress for our action figures? So it was more jealousy on that. Kind of the size
Yeah.
and the scope they're making some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like, growing up with a sister and stuff, she had, of course, My Little Pony. She had some Barbies. She was big in the Rainbow Bright. Care Bears. We both had like the Care Bear cousins. So like I had the raccoon and she had Lionheart,
Oh yeah, my
the
favorite
lion. And what's funny is I had the raccoon for like the longest time, and we ended up taking it somewhere and we left it. Then I never got it back. And then my
Aw.
sister ended up buying me one when they re-released it, so I still have it. But when they re-released them, but it's like there was a lot of different toys back then. But like my sister was more, even though she was a girl, she would had those tomboy tendencies. So she would play with me on other things, or with my GI Joes or Transformers, or we would do like the crossover things like you would see in Toy Story.
That was always cool when you're at the playground or you're at school and you're sitting there playing with He-Man or Ninja Turtles or what have you, and a girl comes up and she's like, "Hey, can I play with you?" And she's usually got like the coolest freaking figure in that toy line. Like Battle Damage He-Man, and we're like, "What?" And we're like, "Hell yeah, you can play with us." We did not, at least in my neighborhood and in my school, we did not, like, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for here. We did not separate the guys and the girls. We like intermingled all the freaking
Right.
time. And when
They were
had,
not excluded.
yeah, there was none of that stupid cooties crap. There was none. I mean, we were
Oh, yeah.
we were kissing girls in first grade. I'm gonna throw that out there. We didn't believe in all that dumb shit that most kids believe in. And so when a girl showed up with, toys that you played with, we were always like, yeah, come join us. Power Rangers, X-Men, all those toy lines that some girls really got into. I about lost my nerve when one of my friends showed up and she had some of the original G1s, and I was like, when in the hell were you going to tell me you like Transformers?
Heck yeah.
And, she'd be sitting there trying to imitate the voices too, and I'm like, oh, man.
Well, then there's those toys that are universal too, Power Rangers.
Oh, yeah. But you could also see how some toy lines were definitely advertised to one demographic over the other.
Definitely.
It was when they crossed the line. Some of the girls were actually buying He-Man and wanted to play with He-Man toys. F Barbie, they wanted He-Man. And then they ruined the line by introducing She-Ra, but that's a whole other story.
Oh yeah. Well, like we used to do this whole thing where like my buddy would come over to my house, and we even did this as adults because we just collected GI Joes and everything. But we'd like set up our like a living room as to like be this big battle, and we would sit there and play like we were playing like we were kids, and that shit was fun. We always joke about doing that when we go up to the toy meetups and stuff. It's like, dude, we have all these toys here. Let's just set up and we'll have a big giant war.
Hell yeah.
I want to see adults crying about, I shot first. No, you didn't.
That's me when we busted out my Worlds of Wonder laser tag set.
Oh,
And
nice.
we were running around trying to shoot each other. I'm like, you better not be covering the sensor, you cheap ass, you know. And just having those good old memories, even as adults, you know, seeing that age is nothing but a number, and it all just comes back to what made you happy in the first place.
And you know, one of the reasons I think what keeps us going as collectors, you know, and I think with toys, it's that feeling of Christmas morning. You know, you got and during the year, right? So it can be Christmas morning any day of the year, whether it's fall, winter, summer. Okay, you get a package from eBay. It's a figure you ordered. You open it up. You love it. You know, it makes your day. It makes the grind of life and the repetition of daily monotonous bullshit of everyday reality a little bit brighter, doesn't it? Waiting on that figure to come in the mail.
Oh,
I mean,
dude,
I know
yeah.
you guys feel that way. When you know you're checking the tracking, right? Let's all get into nerd mode here for a second. You got the tracking. Who else has got it bookmarked? You pull it from your email. You put it into the. This is at least me. Maybe I'm the only crazy one. I'll throw it in Google. I'll search it through the USPS site, and I'll save the bookmark right somewhere on my phone. Then it saves you time, right? It saves you time. So then once or twice a week before it comes, you can see where it's at.
Right.
And you open, and the box comes, and it's one of the highlights of your day. It's the little things sometimes that make you happy. That's what keeps us going. It's fun, whether it's a game or a toy. It's a reminder that not everything sucks, you know? Because sometimes
Right.
it feels like,
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like the monotony of life is too much, and you want a Christmas morning once in a while. You want to open something fun.
We get enough bills in the mail, so it's like, you know, we get that big bad toy store box or whatever, Target, and it's like we know it's about to go
Amazon,
down.
eBay shipping.
And
Oh
let's
yeah.
answer, when will it be enough? When will we have enough? When are we done? When we're dead? That's when
Yeah, I mean, you know, and that's the thing, man. It's like, I do the exact same thing. I get the message from Big Bad Toy Store, hey, your stuff is about to ship, and then it's like I'm sitting there looking at UPS, tracking while I'm at work, tracking. Has it shipped yet? Where's it at?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a spot for it? Where you're going to put it? Where you're going to display it? Where you're going to hang it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh
All
yeah.
that stuff.
Or the worst thing is, it's like now that we do YouTube, it's like, oh yeah, do I open it now so I can play with it, or I do a video on it? It's like, oh dang it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that adds to it because you're sitting there and you know that a bunch of us are going to be watching that video going, okay, let's see what's in the box. Let's see if he opens it. And if not, it just kind of motivates us to go out and look for our own. So, you know, whether we're sharing pictures on Discord or we're making videos about our pickups, I mean, I still live for that. I think that's part of the fun in this day and age. Whereas before, you know, we had to wait to see a cool commercial, and if we saw one, it would sometimes be weeks before we ever saw that commercial again, unless they plugged the hell out of it.
And it's how we reward ourselves, you know? Like when girls get a new pair of shoes or a dress or perfume or, you know, what jewelry. How many girls are into jewelry, right? Almost all of them. You know, it's their reward to themselves for working hard. You know, a little tap on the back. You know, you want to, because otherwise, then the life is just a grind of bills and work, right? Where's the fun in that? And no, it's not about just material possessions. You know, it's not, like I said, for me, it's about more. It's more than just the childhood. They're pieces of art. You love seeing them on the shelf. They remind you of happy times. It's something fun. There's no baggage to that, right? There's so much baggage to stuff, anxiety in life. It's like so far removed from that. It's just some fun.
Yeah.
But don't go crazy. Don't like break the bank. Don't overextend yourself that you can't take care of your family and things like that.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the hard part, right?
Yeah.
Don't get in credit card debt. I may or may not have done that before. May or may not.
Yeah.
Yes, I did. But I'm out of it now. I'm out of it, baby.
And it just like
Hey,
you said, it's that link back to simpler times. When we look back at being kids, we used to think that, oh, we're not old enough to do some of the stuff that adults are doing. We used to think that was like the biggest upset ever. Now my son kind of talks like that, and I'm like, kiddo, no, stay young, enjoy every second you have without responsibilities, at least real ones.
yeah,
Live it up, because when you get to the adult age, you can't ever go back to being a kid. You just keep going
No.
forward. The only
no,
way you are ever going to feel kid-like or have that sense of enjoyment with life again is by preserving the things that made you happy as a kid. And he when I tell him that, he still kind of wants to fight me on it because he wants to be able to do the stuff that me and Cutie Bat do. But when he sees all the toys I have on the wall, all the video games, it kind of resonates with him in a way. He kind of understands that. He understands why I held on to so many things in my life. And when I have that deep conversation with him as he gets older and can handle adult conversations, I'm going to tell him the deeper meaning of a lot of this stuff, what it really represents, and the sort of struggles that came with my upbringing, not just with my family but life in general. So a lot of what I own is more than just a hobby. It's almost a rite of passage in some ways. It's almost like the gold medal that I won, even though I never went to the Olympics. It's gonna have more meaning than it just being a piece of plastic on my wall or on my shelf.
Yeah, one of the greatest joys I had was with my dad. He would play G.I. Joes with me. And then he would do the voices from the cartoon and stuff. He always played the bad guys, and he would always cheat, and I would call him out on it. But I love those times. I miss doing that. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to do with my son now. But trying to get him off his tablet and things, it's rough. But he does enjoy playing games and doing other things with me besides, playing Roblox and all that stuff. And it's like, it wasn't my choice. But anyway,
Mm-hmm.
the struggle of being a parent.
Right. We always hope that while they're developing their own tastes and interests like we did as kids, that you hope that they don't just go out for junk. They don't just go out for stupid stuff. You always got to hope that what they're getting into is actually cool and resonates in some way, and not just trendy because friends at school are into it.
Hmm.
But I guess we could say we kind of fell into that too, as to some degree. Although I will gladly stand by the choices I made when it came to my toy lines versus what people were getting into because it was trendy. Like, to this day, I'm still glad I'm a Pokemon fan. I don't give a shit what anybody tells me. They couldn't
Oh
convince
yeah.
me. They couldn't convince me back then. There's no way in hell they're gonna convince me now. Same with DBZ, right, Whacker? I know you're in the audience.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. DBZ, Pokemon,
Mm-hmm.
the
and
cards, all that stuff.
just because I don't like those series, though, it doesn't mean I can't appreciate the passion you guys have behind it. I think being passionate about what you watch, and be passionate about what you play, is the whole point.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
if you're not,
Sure.
if passion isn't there, what are we doing? Why are we spending our money in it? Why are we wasting our time with it? The passion is the point of everything. That's why I play music. That's why I watch movies. The passion behind it. It's not just it's more than just something we do with our time. It has to be a passion because
Hmm.
time is so short, life is so short. Let's be passionate about whatever we do, right?
Yeah,
That's the whole
exactly.
point.
Yep. We haven't had many days here in our house since both Cutie Bat and I started our new jobs and, little zombies in school. But I will never forget the day when I was able to bring home some of the new Motu figures. And, I brought home Battle Cat and Panther and everything. And he's just like, what's that? And I told him what He-Man was, what it was like for me growing up and all that. And then the look on my face when he's like, "Can we play with the He-Man toys?" And we spent that whole evening just, going nuts. Um, I hadn't been that happy with Motu figures since I was a kid, honestly. And even
Oh
Cutie
yeah, I
Bat.
mean Battle Cat, perfect example of old versus new. It's gotten better. It was just a thick piece of plastic that didn't move. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's a movable mouth, legs, tail, everything.
Right.
You know, I mean, they've completely perfected the Battle Cat. You
Yeah,
know,
the new turtle van that NECA's doing in Super 7 are like far superior than the one the Playmates did.
Mm-hmm.
No, so I get you.
So I got another chat going on here.
No, it's okay.
Throwing support everywhere, even in my own podcast.
So
do it justice. Before we wrap up, Vince, can we give people an overview of some of the topics you discuss on your podcast? Some of the toy lines you're most passionate about that you're gonna that you broach upon on your channel. I mean, let's give the people
yeah, no,
a good
Oh, even
overview
better.
from.
yeah, no problem. So we just it's kind of open discussion. I kind of come up with an idea, or we just kind of bounce ideas from between each other and what we want to talk about. But there a lot of it's about movies and video games, stuff we grew up with. Hanging out with my family and friends. It's kind of all over. I mean, a lot of it's going to be stories of like what I went through as a kid with my dad and that journey. And then we're starting to really kind of get into doing more on what it's like being parents, which is where I wanted to go with this, the podcast eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But I collect just about anything. I mean, I love like my favorite toy lines to collect for are Star Wars Black Series, anything Transformers, except for like the Cyberverse stuff. Those are really good for kids, but they're not great. Um, for like, they don't really stand up to the quality that you're getting with like the Earthrise figures or even the Titans Returns or the
Yeah.
new Legacy line that we're getting. Um, I do collect amiibos. I like having, figurines of video game characters from Nintendo products, and it's been really cool getting to see like Joker from Persona and Terry Bogard, and just having other different toy lines having different amiibo characters. Um, I love Legos, Star Wars Legos, definitely, because I could, for me, I love building models with my dad when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I love collecting Star Wars vehicles and that whole '95 Power of the Force figure line. Well, I decided that I'm just going to collect Lego Star Wars vehicles because I love building them and then I get to display them. Now they're hard to dust, but yeah, I just anything kind of like that piques my interest nostalgia wise. I do like to stream. I love fighting games, and that's one of the big things that we do for streaming at the moment. Big into RPGs, and I just talk about my nostalgia and love just engaging with the people that come in and hang out with me while I'm streaming. So, but there's just a lot. I don't know. I'm into everything.
I'm gonna
I'm not
show
really
a
picky.
I'm gonna show a clip of one of the podcasts that I was actually able to catch live, and we just had a blast discussing was your podcast on movie rental memories and whatnot.
Yeah.
I happened to catch this one before I started work, and even then, while I was at work, I was still trying to be chatty and stuff because it was such a fun topic to talk about. And we've discussed said topic as well, but it's always cool when we see other members of the community and other friends talk about the same thing, because it just really reminds me of just how much fun we had back in the day with being able to do something as simple as rent a movie. and the whole process that went into it, looking at the box arts, looking at the section we're not supposed to because it's covered by a black curtain, getting snacks, even just all the minor things that made that Friday night or Saturday night rental so much fun. So definitely, guys, if you haven't checked out Vince's channel yet, please do so. A lot of really great podcasts, a lot of great videos. Your video on, I think it was it the Turtle Box collection or the?
I did the what was it, the recent ones I did was the Ninja Gaiden soundtrack
right
on vinyl.
Mm-hmm.
I got the Danny figure from the Turtles movie line from
Yes,
NECA.
that's the one. That's the one I remember asking you about, and I was tempted to get a subscription box because honestly, I have not been impressed with a lot of them at all. And
Yeah,
that video kind of made me think twice about doing that. I was like, okay, now you can get exclusive figures in these things. That's insane.
yeah, and the podcasts aren't live right now. We record them on Mondays and Tuesdays, and then I added them just because I don't have time to get everybody kind of together sometimes. But eventually, I do. I think our 50th episode I want to do live, and we might do it on a Friday or something. It just all depends on like everybody's schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we're all working dads and busy and stuff, so it's easy for me to go back and kind of edit everything.
Yeah. So even if you're not a gamer dad, guys, check it out, please. It's just a lot of really good content. And, Vince is an awesome guy. I love the guests that he has on his show with him, some of his crew, because it just reminds me about all the cool stuff that we all have in common. So definitely check out his content if you haven't yet. Set aside some time, enjoy the podcast. I mean, hell, even that one you guys did about some of our favorite snacks that have gone over the years. Yeah. I was sitting there and I remember Omega and I were like, BB Crisp, yes! Bring those back. That was one of the best cookies out there. Because, man, oh, man. Talk about a snack I ate religiously. It was always those. And I had them with me everywhere. Field trips, school, at my aunt's house when we had poolside. Just all those good, man, I used to buy so many bags of those. And I was so sad when they got fizzled out.
Oh yeah, that's me with like, I love Crystal Clear Pepsi.
Yes.
And like when that went away, and every time they've brought it back, the last time they did it, it didn't taste the same.
No,
it did
not at all. And a lot of people have told me that too. Like, how do you remember what that drink tasted like years ago? And I'm like, because that's how much I drank and loved it. If they brought back Pepsi Blue, I would be able to tell if it tasted like the original or not because I was addicted to that too. And Surge, original Surge.
Yeah, Surge doesn't taste the same.
Oh yeah, Surge. Yep.
It tastes like it's like Sprite now. It don't taste the same.
Nope. Once they find a way to cheapen the formula, they do it. I mean, we've already been there with New Coke. So,
and then to bring it back too is like with Pepsi, I was going to add the fact that you had the Van Halen, Sammy Hagar, song now, and I was like, I love that song.
And
it just takes me back.
There's like people flying in the clouds and stuff. It looks like they're swimming but they're flying. Yeah, I remember that commercial. Hell yeah. Oh, see, look at J Chip. Old Pizza Hut was way better than today's. Hell yeah, it was better.
Yeah, that is so true.
So true.
And you got those cool Back to the Future shades.
Yep. Bring back those red tumblers and those chandeliers. Put the Nintendo Player's Choice in one corner and the 4 cab or the 4 game SNK cab on the other side. Hell yeah. That's my
when they were all you can eats. I mean, like when you go in and like they had their little buffet style they used to do.
Yep. Somebody didn't want pizza, go eat the salad. Or when you had the pasta bar with the salad bar too. It's like, there you go. Go eat that.
Ryan, you were gonna say something, man? Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say they even screwed up Twinkies. They aren't even the same. They're like smaller now. They don't taste like they used to. It's like if something's gonna go away and you're gonna bring it back, do it right, or don't bring it back at all. In my opinion.
Yeah, just leave it the way it was, preserved in history.
Yeah.
I remember when we cleaned out my grandfather's trailer after he had passed. He actually still had a glass bottle of Crystal Pepsi sealed, and he actually had a 6-pack of original Squeeze-It sealed. I was like, what the hell was he doing with this?
Oh, jeez.
But it was just crazy that they withstood the test of time like that.
He wishes it was Ecto Cooler. You see what those go for? The original?
Man.
Yes, especially like the one they did for like this time around. It was only people they decided to give it to, not like where you had the option to buy it.
Mm-hmm. Remember when we used to get that in cartons and in the can?
Yeah.
The huge ass can that you had to use like one of those triangular can openers on just to pop the spout in.
Dude, that's what every kid was drinking, that or Bop and Berry. Like we grew up on that shit, dude. Like was.
Ecto Cooler was practically injected into my veins. I lived off that. It was like having an IV.
Oh yeah, it's really true. Oh man, that was that and the cereal too.
Mm-hmm.
The Ghostbuster cereal. But I was gonna say, back to what Ryan was talking about, just other items that were back then for toys and stuff. You had like the turtle pies that were great.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of vanilla pudding, but I bought those religiously, despite it. I just hated the fact that you had to lick the pudding off the sticker because it always broke.
Yeah.
It was always broken. You never got one intact. You could get an apple pie or a cherry pie. Oh, perfect. You get a turtle pie, it's always broken somewhere and it bleeds out on the sticker. I hated that.
Or the turtles ice cream with the gumballs and the faces were always messed up.
Yeah.
They're all like lopsided and like halfway melted and stuff.
Yeah, that's Michelangelo. Shut the fuck up.
Or Sonic the Hedgehog, he had that problem where like his gumball eyeball was like way down here at his cheek, but his eye was way the hell up there.
Oh, jeez.
We're going to have to make that another topic at some point, too.
80s foods or 80s and 90s food items or related to...
Items we want back. Or, maybe ones that we lament and don't want to see them recreate. I don't know. I think that would be a fun topic. It seems our chat is kind of blowing up with us, too. So.
We definitely hit a chord with them.
So I'm motivated at this point to throw up there toy lines we wish they brought back in the same vein as Motu nowadays, where they keep the integrity of the toy but they make improvements on it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking toy lines we want brought back that same way, and now I'm also thinking food and snacks that we miss that we want brought back. But it has to be the original formula. Don't alternate it or alter it and think, oh, well, if I put sucralose in this, nobody's going to notice. The hell we will.
Yeah. Pray I don't alter the deal any further.
Right?
Well, we could do the best of both worlds. We can have Food Fighters come back as a figure line. I wonder how that would be.
Fighting food-ons.
Yeah.
All those crazy lines. Yep, see? Everybody's talking about it. The ice cream characters where the faces were all deformed. We all know. We all felt that pain. Buy a $1.25, Mario Brothers ice cream and the freaking bubblegum eyes are all messed up or their noses melted. Yep.
Yeah, Dizzy said he's talking about the 95 Mortal Kombat toys, and I'm assuming he's talking about the Hasbro released, right? Where there were G.I. Joe figures.
Yes, I had the Street Fighter versions of those. By the time Mortal Kombat came out, I kind of didn't care. I was more fixated on the games, but I remember owning a few of those.
Oh yeah, it was great having like the ninjas and stuff. You
Mm-hmm.
could just have them like they were either part of Snake Eyes, the Rashikage clan, or they were Cobra troops. Cobra ninjas with special powers that Doctor Mindbender had altered.
Mm-hmm. I remember Mortal Kombat even had like this 1 inch figure line. You could get like a few in a box at like a dollar store, and they were actually licensed figurines. They were like these little mini collectible ones. I used to buy those all the time, along with bootleg Dragon Ball Z toys that the 99-cent store thought we were just stupid Americans buying. Like, no, I know for a fact that Krillin isn't green, but I'll humor you.
It's a fusion. I'm telling you now.
Right? Krillino or Krillo. That's what it was. Piccolin.
Piccolin. I like that one better.
Uh, all right, folks. I think have we surpassed the 2 hour mark? Let me double check that. Oh,
Yep, 206.
yep, we definitely have. Awesome. Well, since we're all a variety of different collectors here, any words of advice or encouragement that anybody want to give for anybody who hasn't really gone back to collecting or is maybe considering it? We're all different levels of character collector here, so why not?
I would tell people, okay, write down the lines you want the most and focus on the ones that are most affordable right now, because it goes up and down, people. The market goes up and down. What's high today might be down tomorrow. So write down the ones you want. Look on eBay, look at your local stores that might have them. Look on Facebook Marketplace. BFG always says look at the marketplace groups, the forums. And just figure out where the market is right now on them, because what's up today might be down tomorrow. It's just like video games. Focus on, and you'll get more for your money on what's more affordable right now, and focus on that. It's a good start, and you can bulk up your collection, because you don't want to jump in at the height of the market on a toy line and you can only get a figure here, a figure there. You want to, when you're starting out and you get nothing but bare shelves, say you're starting out as a collector, you want to kind of bulk up, get a good variety, get a good amount of stuff. You don't want just one fucking figure, right? So, do your research, don't overpay, and find what the market's not hottest on right now, and capitalize on that is my advice.
So I would add that collect what you like. Also, make friends with people in toy groups. You'll be able to find different avenues of being able to find things that you're looking for better than if you were just going to do it alone. There's tons of people out there that'll help you find what you need, that are willing to make deals, and you may have something that they want. Maybe say you collect games and you have some extras, and they happen to have a toy. They may be willing to trade you an even trade for what you got for that toy you're looking for. And, enjoy the hobby. It's fun, but don't get overwhelmed with it. Don't let it consume you.
Mm-hmm. I would definitely agree with all those points. Just like video game collecting, know what you want to collect. Think about what you enjoyed the most, whether it was as a kid or as you grew up over the years. Don't turn your back on the things that made you happy. That at one point may have brought you some sort of happiness, and just hold on to those memories, hold on to the things that you loved as a kid. And if you want to rekindle those feelings and emotions and memories, go for it. But like what's been established, don't break your bank over it either. Find that comfort zone where you are with pricing and where you're buying, who you're buying from. Um, just have fun with it. Don't let what society would normally say, oh, well, you shouldn't be doing this at your age, because I guarantee you that's being said by a lot of people who were forced to give up the things they loved as kids and probably regret it. So, just stick to your guns, enjoy what you like, and have fun with it. Have the same rush that you did when you were a kid, and whether you just want to display it, or hell, even if you want to play and reenact your favorite scenes, go for it. There's no judgment here, I can tell you that. Not among us. Yes, very good point, J Chip. I highly recommend Do You Nerd. Tom and Lacey are really cool, really nice people. Their collection is so out there. I love it. They've got a bit of everything. So, I mean, it's proof that you can collect whatever the hell you want. And it's even more fun when you have somebody to build that collection with, too. So, highly check them out if you've never seen Do You Nerd, because they make such really fun and really funny content.
And something I'll add is that also make sure don't get wrapped up in the FOMO when you're toy collecting either.
Yes.
You'll end up paying more than you should have if you just waited.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Hey, even better, Brady, as long as you can share in those memories with them too. I think that's one of the best part of being a collector of any kind and being a parent. You get to rekindle your old memories and at the same time make new ones. And trust me, that stuff's going to stick. Cuz sooner or later, kiddo might bring up one of those days where you guys played G.I. Joes or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. And those are the memories that'll last longer for him.
Absolutely.
Than anything that he may be going through right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you said it yourself that all the different experiences you had with your dad kind of kept things going, kind of kept it from being just a way of killing time to, a part of your livelihood. I mean, that says a lot. That says a lot there. And then you have the chance of doing the exact same thing for your kids.
Mm-hmm.
You keep that cycle going. And if we're all sitting here going, kids need to go back and revisit their imaginations, they need to get off the tablets and all that, well, they're never going to do it if you don't present the opportunity to them. So.
Right. Make time.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Make time for your kids as well as make time for yourself, even if you don't have kids. Just sit back and bust those action figures out and just go nuts.
Have Luke Skywalker take on the Emperor.
Right?
Or have Luke take on Goku.
There you go.
The sky's the limit with your imagination.
Damn
and it never went away.
Mm-hmm. If my Ninja Turtles could go out with Barbie and her sister, why not? So. Alrighty. Well, I guess that seals the deal on another awesome podcast. I want to thank you once again, Vince, for being an awesome guest star tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me. It's always great.
Awesome job.
It's always fun to rack your brain with your experiences, because you definitely are more in the scene than I am. And when I watch some of your uploads, I learn a lot about what's out there that I didn't even know about. And I'm sitting here going, well, shit, should I put aside a part of my paycheck for that?
Yeah, it's one of the things I used to do. I mean, I don't know. My dad's always been in the know of things, so I got that from him. I just found a way to look up different sites and different things, and I like to be that person for information if I can. If I don't know it off the top of my head, I will find it.
Mm-hmm. And that's a very useful ability, not just for yourself, but when you share that information with the community. Always awesome.
Hmm. We need more people doing that.
Yeah, and within the lines, like get what you like, but the important like second part to get what you like and the toy lines you like is get the figures within that line that speak to you. You don't have to have the whole line, right? And having the whole line, there might even be figures in there that you don't even like. You know, I feel that way about a lot of lines. I don't need everything. Get the ones that speak to you first, and then later on you could always expand. You know.
Unless you're a completionist.
Yeah.
Some people are like that. Yeah.
You better have a big wall.
Yep.
Or you can be like some of the other guys I know in some of the toy groups. They literally buy lots from people, that are selling out stuff. They go to like garage sales and everything, or they find Facebook Marketplace posts, and then they buy that lot, then they resell it, and then they make their money to buy whatever they need for their collection. So
I'll
just
give you
be
an
smart
example.
about it.
The Marvel Legends, I've just been buying the Wolverines mostly. I haven't Apocalypse, and I have a Venom, but other than that, and a Gambit. But on the most part, I just buy the new Wolverines they put out because there's going to be a lot of variations, and I'm fine with that. You know.
Yep.
Sometimes you can be fine with just a few figures in a line.
That's why I only have a few Marvel Legends on my list. Only because I'm not interested in collecting every hero. I just want ones that are specific to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, for me, it's like usually Spider-Man or the obscure characters. But like, definitely, I'd like to try to get a complete collection for the retro line for Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm. And now that I know that, I'll be keeping an eye out.
Yeah. I'll get you a link.
I had a bunch of toys that were supposed to go to friends in the community, and sadly I am no longer talking to any of them, or they're not talking to me for whatever reason, so I ended up keeping a lot of the things that I found in the wild for them. So another thing too, guys, just because some of us haven't done it often doesn't mean that we still don't. Let people know in the comment sections of our videos or in our Discord links. Let people know what you're looking for. And I guarantee you a lot of the community would be more than willing to help out with that stuff.
Yeah, definitely me, man. Hit me up. I usually can find stuff, or I know people who can find things.
The real toy hunter here, folks. Don't let that stage show fool you. Vince is the real deal.
I try.
Judging by your collection, you not only try, you succeed, sir. Because, man, you got those nice display cases and everything. That's what I'm talking about. That's pro level right there.
Well, it helps keep the dust off. And if anybody's looking for like the D-tops, they're at IKEA. That's those glass cases, and they're pretty cheap.
And Ryan's house is pretty much covered wall to wall with toys, so that's like
Very true.
That's like a museum in itself. It's like go down the toy line of history here, folks. All right, well, with that being said, I want to thank Vince again for being on the show. And as always, I am your patient zero, Zombie JLT1.
I am Richard Ryan.
I am Vince at the Dad Level Podcast.
And Big Family Gaming is probably Big Family Snoozing. Oh, well, he's a busy guy. We can forgive him. If you guys haven't had a chance to or didn't know this was going on, our good buddy Ingeniouses came back to streaming tonight. I know that he is pretty much almost done with his Super Metroid stream, but if y'all want to do a raid or just show him some love and support, feel free to click on the link there for his channel. His live stream is still going. And as always, we'll be opening up the general section of my Discord for the after party. Feel free to hang out there with us. And until next episode, thank you all for being here. Thanks for keeping the chat popping. Keep those ideas coming on the Discord. We love hearing what you guys are interested in discussing with us. And as always, enjoy the ending. Catch you all later.